Hello everybody, this is Kim Conchie, I'm the Chief Executive of Cornwall Chamber of Commerce, and we're meeting on the second day of COP26 with two people who will really have a strong view on what the world leaders should be discussing and what we can do about it, with a particular angle on where Cornwall should be leading, where we're not, where we are, what more we can do, etc. So if I can introduce first of all Natasha Collings-Costello, who's the Managing Director of Cornwall Environmental Consultants, a not-for-profit company, effectively the sort of reporting into Cornwall Wildlife Trust. Natasha, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I'm really looking forward to hearing your robust views on what Cornwall should be doing on, as we sort of all listening and tuned into our political leaders debating at COP26. And of course, Richard Pyshorn from Secure Forest CIC. Welcome to you as well.
Hi, good afternoon, Kim.
So we're listening to COP26, not only our political leaders, but it's a huge travelling circus, isn't it, of sort of businesses and political parties from around the world, all clamouring for our attention to how good they are, really, on what they're going to do as far as action is concerned. It seems like a lot of talk, but I do feel that you can't get to solutions which everybody agrees with unless you are talking about it in a focused way. So I hope it does do that sort of things. Now, Natasha, off air, we were talking about a couple of things that you're particularly attuned to. And I'd just like to sort of start off by hearing a little bit about what Cornwall Environmental Consultants' objectives are and what you think the key issues that COP26 has got to agree on.
Yeah, so what we do at Cornwall Environmental Consultants is help people manage their land or develop their sites, if that's what their aspirations are, in line with the environment. So we help them assess what they have as a baseline in ecology, landscape and contaminated land, but we also help them understand how they can improve that situation. So what we want as the trading arm of Cornwall Wildlife Trust is that all developments happen in line with people and wildlife. And we help deliver that through a number of ways, delivering things like Building with Nature, which is an accreditation scheme that developers can join. But we also help lots of landowners, farmers as well, who want to manage their land in a more sustainable way. So we talk about everything from, bat boxes in a new industrial unit right through to rewilding some large estates. So we really work across the whole spectrum.
Fantastic. And this is Cornwall only that you deal with, is it?
No, we work right across the southwest, and we're also part of some national projects. We're delivering the Network for Nature, which is a Highways England project, and we're also looking at working on some sort of large-scale rewilding projects nationally as well.
Excellent. And Richard, from the little I know of you, welcome. You're a new member of Cornwall Chamber of Commerce, so thank you very much indeed for that. Secure Forest works on a sort of more international stage, but does something completely different. So welcome to Cornwall's Chamber of Commerce. Tell us a little bit about what your aims are.
Yeah, I think to mirror what Natasha said, we try to communicate well with end users, which is usually rangers on the ground in rainforests around the world, to create a sustainable landscape, really, listening to them, understanding what their needs are within the community and how we can support them. We can support them in many different ways, such as training, technology, latest technology solutions, and ensure that we get that technology that's suitable for the purpose into the right hands and the funding that can support that over a long period of time.
And the purpose being?
To try and protect the rainforest against illegal logging, wildlife poaching, and again, many other illegal crimes that happen as a result of illegal logging.
Okay, and that's done with training to use the technology which you're applying on site. Tends to be cameras and that sort of thing, or drones.
Yeah, we start with using the latest satellite technology, and a lot of it is free to use. Is getting that satellite technology into the hand of the protected area manager, so they can get the oversight of their area and understand, using the human intelligence that they've got on the ground, to actually make a plan. And then once we've got that plan together, we can then bring in other technologies which try and make them as cost effective as possible, that will complement their projects.
I wasn't expecting that to come up this afternoon, but actually the satellite angle is quite an interesting one, isn't it? Because people are questioning me sometimes as to why a spaceport in Cornwall is is conducive with our green and blue sort of economy aims. But actually those small satellites put up are probably going to be the best way we've got to monitor the planet and sort of look at not only the sort of forest things that you're looking at, but illegal whaling and weather patterns and so on and so forth. So I do hope that the slight carbon footprint of the planes which launch those satellites will enable us to keep a much better check on what we're doing to the planet. And as I said to half jokingly to someone the other day, and if we have messed the place up, look outwards as well to where else we might be able to move on to. But anyway, so Natasha, what are your sort of major guiding principles at the moment? There's sort of a lot of talk. Cornwall Council have got their Vision 2030. You've got some other strategies in place. What sort of guiding principles are you abiding by at the moment to guide your activities?
I just wanted to pick up on a point of Richard's actually, which is about using technology and monitoring, because I think they're two things that we kind of lose sight of a bit. So when we're listening to what COP26 is up to today, a lot of people think, oh, let's sequester more carbon, let's plant lots of trees, and all those things have a part to play, but actually protecting what we have left is even more important. And people get, very excited about new projects, don't they? And we could fund tree planting or whatever it might be, but actually keeping an eye on what we've got and protecting that is the best thing we can do in the short term, because even if we do fund lots of sequestration projects, they will take time to get off the ground and they take time to actually start sequestering. So I think, that's just a really good point that I want to kind of draw out, that let's not just focus on these kind of sexy new projects. Let's actually look at keeping what we've got and keeping a good eye on that.
And that's great to hear from a Cornwall point of view, isn't it? I think we are all so proud of the place we live and work, to make sure that is retained, and what we've got here, whether it be land or sea, in fact, is sort of looked after, is a really good guiding principle for all of us, I think, isn't it? So, and does the principles that Cornwall Council has set out in their Vision 2030 adhere to that belief, do you think? Are we protective enough of what we've got?
I think Cornwall Council is definitely heading in the right direction. They've declared a climate emergency. I'm hoping they're also going to declare an ecological emergency. I think that's definitely needed to bring, ecology, wildlife, biodiversity to the forefront of things. We've seen with COVID and with lockdowns how important nature is for people, for their physical health, their mental health. And I think people now, and definitely the younger generation, are really starting to say, this isn't good enough, we've all got to make a change. And that's one of my kind of personal hobby horses, is I get a bit fed up of people saying, oh, there's no point in us, doing the small thing while China and Russia and America are still emitting. That's just rubbish in my view. We've all got to do a bit. And, if all of us today in the UK, 60 million odd people said, actually, I'm not going to buy that plastic wrapped bunch of bananas, I'm going to buy the naked ones, because let's face it, they come in a perfect wrapping of their own. It's a skin and it's compostable. If we all just do lots of little steps like that, it does make a huge difference, at the same time as keeping pressure on those big emitters on the international scale. Absolutely
right. I heard somebody at a conference the other day saying, it's only one plastic straw, said 8 billion people. When you put it like that, it's easy to see how you can make a difference, isn't it, really? So do the strategies we've got locally all head in the right direction, do you think? The Vision 2030 and the ecological emergency, are they consistent with what you're doing at CEC? Yep, I think Cornwall is definitely leading the way. Cornwall has its environmental growth strategy. It was the first in the country to actually produce an environmental growth strategy like that, which is a 50-year strategy from 2015 to 2065. And that's the kind of time frame we need to be looking over, isn't it? We can't all just say, oh, we've got a 2-year plan to do this, and then, the wind changes direction, people lose interest, something else comes along. We've got to have these long-term strategies. Change takes time. But, time is running out. It's really urgent now. So I think we are all heading in the right direction, but we can't all just sit and wait for national policy drivers. Business has to lead as well. National policy sets the direction, but business actually delivers it. So we need both. Absolutely need both. And I hear this so often now that, we're beginning even in business to think we do need clear leadership from our political leaders, but actually it's businesses that can really make things happen. And I've long been an advocate that each small business should appoint a sustainability champion, quite often a young person who's more familiar with the sort of issues that we've got to talk about, and take things forward. And I think Richard Pyshorn of Secure Forest, in Cornwall, you have got a fairly sympathetic ear, whether it's the things that, we're talking about land use in Cornwall, or whether it's the protecting the planet more broadly. I guess in Cornwall's business sort of ownership, you've got are you finding a pretty sympathetic audience for what you're pushing?
Absolutely. Been working with partners at Exeter University in the development phase. In the early phases of Secure Forest, the Heart of Belize project, we work with the Eden project and the Innovation Centre at that Truro and Penwith. So again, innovation side of things, there is a definite push for technology solutions, and Cornwall has a big part to play in that global outreach. And I think, as you said, as you picked up earlier, the spaceport and its relevance is there. I think Cornwall hasn't got as much heavy industry, but what it has got is innovation and a global reach now, and we can do that.
Yeah, that global reach has come from Cornwall having perhaps accidentally arrived at a set of sort of images and values. Partly, the G7 was held here earlier in the year, which was Build Back Greener. That sat very comfortably, I think, with what Cornwall's image is. The Chambers of Commerce across the Southwest organised a conference a fortnight before that, which was very much about what the green and blue economy looks like, and we feel in the Southwest that we can lead on that sort of thing. So I think we feel in the Southwest Peninsula that we're offering a different work-life balance perhaps than the 20th century did, and that we've got real pride in place here, and that sense of protecting that is actually a real skill set in its own right now. So I hope with Secure Forest you're finding a very receptive audience, shall we say, for what you're wanting to do with the rest of the world, because we've got this huge pride in place here. So I hope that that gets out. And what sort of messages does Secure Forests? What sort of communications channels does Secure Forest use to get those messages out in the local marketplace?
Again, mainly word of mouth and demonstrations in schools and colleges and universities, telling our story and showing the technology, because the power of that technology from one laptop. We can go live into a satellite 6,500 miles away and get near live data. And then also one of the other things is we can get data that's free to source to produce strategies for the local area. So again, that's a very powerful tool, taking the sensors out and listening live into a rainforest really communicates and connects people with that environment. And they're very supportive, particularly schools. It's just the kids today are just on it, with technology, and they understand the power of that technology.
Well, with the technology that you're showing on your laptop, we showed Natasha and me earlier, it would be pretty weird, Natasha, wouldn't it, if kids didn't get clearly what the message is there. Clearly the pictures that Richard's shown us are pretty devastating when you can see deforestation happening, and the messages are everybody believes that deforestation is a very serious issue now. So surely something must happen from that, doesn't it?
I think we've been trying to make things happen for a long time, haven't we? And I was saying to Richard before we started, for 30 years, I remember in primary school we were talking about, saving a tennis court's worth of tropical rainforest. The people's will is there. The people's will has always been there. The problem is practically delivering on the ground. And a lot of these countries have problems with corruption, with drug trade, with illegal trafficking of animals, illegal trafficking of trees and wood that shouldn't be cut down at all. So the practical intervention is what's needed, and that's what Richard is actually showing, how you do that. The next piece in the puzzle is getting the right people out on the ground that are correctly resourced, because a lot of these gangs are, enormously well funded, be it by drugs or illegal trafficking of people or animals. So, yeah, there's enormous problems, but Richard's solution is definitely, part of the picture.
Great. Excellent.
Also, the other one is paying the rangers on the ground during lockdown. There is no welfare state in Central America. So the rangers were laid off. We paid, as a project, paid for rangers to patrol in an area, and then the adjacent area was devastated. The money from COP26 and the pledges has got to get to the people who need the resources, not through governments, straight to the resources. And that's one of my biggest things. I represent the rangers on the ground, Mario and Mike, and these guys I know personally, and they need to be resourced effectively.
So the training and the money needs to go direct to those people, doesn't it? And that story would be mirrored across the world, wouldn't it? I mean, we've seen too often governments, lining their own pockets, either through corruption or incompetence, and the money just being wasted in all sorts of respects, haven't we? So it's getting it out there. Now back to Cornwall and what we can do here and what messages we want to get out to the Cornish business audience. So Richard, what do you want? Listening to COP26, Secure Forests, your business, what are the messages that we need to act on now, urgently? I mean, I used a very posh word the other day, this is both ontological and urgent. It's existentially, metaphysically affecting humanity, and it's urgent now, isn't it? So what are the actions we need to take? What can people do, and what order can they do them in?
I think firstly, the governments who've pledged and promised these things need to make this enduring policy, not just because over one term of one government organisation. We pick up patterns and trends around the world of deforestation prior to elections. So this policy has to be implemented across the regimes. Look at the Trump situation where he had signed off the agreement, now we're back in. It needs to be enduring. Second thing, they need verification. It's ground zero. Everybody's here, the doom and gloom. Let's start afresh, and let's start in a positive way.
Great, and I think that, as I say, I think there's an open door when you're talking to Cornwall's businesses for that, because of the pride of place we've got here. So that I think we can all share. And Natasha, you're talking about a couple of sort of policies and things that you're developing. Do they hammer that message home?
Cornwall Council policies, you mean?
Well, and any sort of strategies by which you're applying. Is there anything else that's can be harder hitting than what Richard mentioned there?
Well, I like to look right from the kind of macro down to the micro. So I think on the macro scale, we basically are talking about re-energising and repowering our global economy. So it is absolutely enormous. This is bigger than the Industrial Revolution, really. We've got to actually say we've been based for the last 150 plus years on fossil fuels, and we are switching that. So the scale of the challenge is absolutely enormous, but then the scale of the opportunity is absolutely enormous as well. So like Richard says, we've got to break it all down and kind of start from scratch almost. And then on a micro level, which I've mentioned before, we've just got to make everybody feel personally responsible, that they can make a difference, because it's very easy to feel overwhelmed and helpless, or it's very easy to feel really quite cross that you are being expected to make a change when actually, the people who really count, Trump, Biden and others, aren't doing their bit internationally. So I think it's really important that we kind of have a bit of people power in this as well when we look at the enormous challenge that's ahead. And then we have to think about how people feel about their environment and how they are going to respond personally to the challenge. So yes, you might think, I don't want to, take my canvas bag shopping. It's much easier to buy plastic ones. But then you might look out of the window and think, I can hear a robin singing. Isn't that lovely? And it's about getting people to realise that there's a connection between those two things. And I think that really needs to start, from schools upwards for everybody.
And strangely, in the modern world that we're in, that last point, you can spread positive messages as easily as you can spread negative ones. Everybody feels a bit better about themselves by having made a good decision rather than a bad decision. And the technology to share the world's problems exists now, which is why, in one sense, we're all more aware of it, in a way that it never has existed before. So messages from places where we are the developed world, we've got the use of the technology, we mustn't be put off by this message of, the developing world needs to catch up with us. We've got to do things differently, haven't we? And, it is an opportunity, isn't it, for business, for humanity. As I say, it's existential from a humanity point of view. So from a business point of view as well, if we can get that down to the micro level, that it is full of opportunities to do things differently and better. And, COP26 might be a lot of jaw, but it will eventually, I believe, result in ways of doing things differently, and there will be the business opportunities that come from that, which, in a sense, both Secure Forests and Cornwall Environmental Consultants are already leading the way on that. Do you find, let's come to both of you with this question, do you find, Natasha, that more and more businesses are welcoming your stance with open arms?
Yes, absolutely. I think more and more people are coming to us for advice in the first instance. I've got a field and I want to, redevelop the barn on it or something like that. How can I make that more environmentally friendly? And also the technology, if you like, or the systems are out there to actually assess that now, and the policy is then there to back that up as well. So I think everything is heading in the right direction, and we're certainly seeing lots of questions, even from people just with sort of normal gardens, about how they can manage their land more for wildlife. And we've all heard about bee towers and pollinator-friendly planting. You don't have to have lots and lots of land or lots and lots of money to do things like that.
That's an excellent message. And Richard, the secure forest one, I guess that's you're pushing. You must find you're pushing an open door, don't you, in Cornwall's business owners?
Very much so. Business owners are really connected with what's going on in the environment, and we're trying to link them to real live projects and real people on the ground. So yeah, we're pushing against an open door here, and that's the beauty of the system, is we can verify if they're investing in carbon. We can invest in, sensor technologies and training of real rangers on the ground, and they can see the return on their investment, their carbon investment. So rather than investing sometimes, ungoverned space, I would say this is governed space. You can see we can produce, charts and live footage back from the rainforest, so they can get an idea where their investment has gone and the impact it's had.
And the technology really helps with that, doesn't
Really
it?
does.
Yeah. And from the Chamber of Commerce point of view, we're learning all the time, and we're appointing a sustainability champion. I've been on the judging panel for the Cornwall Sustainability Awards for the last 7 years, and that's given me a huge insight into what businesses are doing here and can do. And I think when the awards started back in 2004, it was very much seen as something which that sort of sustainable green business entered. Now, 2 years ago, Teagle Machinery won it because of the amount of things they're putting into their normal production process, which are clean and green and sustainable for the future. So that is hugely it's an uplifting moment of my year to be involved with those things. So that's a good one, and I'm also delighted that what we started with G7, the Build Back Better, Cornwall's presence, albeit virtual, at COP26. The British Chambers of Commerce have got a huge stand at COP26, and through to this event at the Eden Project next year, which I want to get you both involved with, called Anthropy, which is about what mankind needs to do to save the planet, really. And I'm chairing the rural group. So where rural communities can really take a lead on, which across the world, of course, rural communities are far bigger than urban communities. What can we teach the world? All in the 20th century, all the cool kids lived in the cities, didn't they? And I want the 21st century to be where people more close to nature, more aware of what's going on, are taking the lead with some of the sort of thought leadership around these sort of things. So I'm really looking forward to my engagement with that. So Cornwall has got a lot going for it in terms of our image being clean and green and being able to lead on this.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that more and more businesses are seeing the value of environmental and social governance, and that ESG kind of inspections almost is now becoming much more accepted and indeed asked for. So a lot of investors now want to know what the ESG credentials are of what they're investing in, and that's something that CEC can offer, is actually doing those kind of sustainability carbon calculations of businesses. And we're seeing a lot more people asking for things like that as well, because people do want to know that that is actually being delivered. So
they do, certainly younger consumers. If your business hasn't got a proper environmental, social and governance policy, people just aren't going to buy from you. I think that started in the public sector already, but increasingly I'm seeing that from large businesses, and that will come throughout society, I think. So to be able to put not just a badge, but actually embedded in their behaviour what they're doing is really good. And I think in a way, Richard, that sort of superseded corporate social responsibility, in a sense that this can become absolutely embedded part of people's work behaviour, can't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And again, I was just thinking there, the reach across around the globe with what we learn in Cornwall can be applied across, Central and South America and other problem areas that they've got problems where they need to create sustainable livelihoods. I know Cool Earth down in Exeter University as well, are very big. They're doing some excellent work on this, and what I see is us working with teams to create this sustainable landscapes, and the lessons we learn here in Cornwall have got us just as much impact in Africa and Central and South America.
In Cornwall and the Southwest, we talk about the green and blue economy, because not only are we very aware of our landscape, but being surrounded in sea, I think that the long track record of success with Surfers Against Sewage and others means that we're very protective of our oceans and very aware of changes in our oceans. And Cornwall Environmental Consultants has a view on that, I suppose, which surrounds Cornwall as well.
Yeah, I think we're incredibly lucky in Cornwall that we have both the green and blue environment on our doorstep. So like we were discussing with Richard, with the tropical rainforest, initially you want to be protecting what you've got, and that's where the voice that Surfers Against Sewage have had and continue to have. Just in the last couple of weeks we've seen the debate on discharging sewage into the seas. It's still not gone away. That's another one from my childhood that is still as pertinent today as it was then. But we do also have those incredible opportunities with the blue environment. So obviously we've got the Wave Hub, we've got lots of renewable opportunities with the seas, but also environmental risks from those as well. Offshore wind turbines, great for energy generation, but do have impacts on migratory birds, for example. So we have to weigh up all the pluses and minuses of those things. But we've also got some fantastic opportunities to do some offsetting and some sequestration of carbon using the blue environment, because everyone, loves to think, oh, well, let's plant trees. And planting trees can be part of the solution. But there are incredible opportunities to do equivalent kind of projects in the sea as well. And actually, eelgrass regeneration, so that really valuable seagrass, maintaining and planting that, and there are schemes where you can plant forests now of eelgrass that actually sequesters about 40 times more carbon than trees, which a lot of people don't realise. They think, let's plant trees and that will solve the problem. But, all the heathland and wetlands and marine environments can actually sequester more carbon than trees.
Fabulous. So if businesses in Cornwall listen to this podcast, want to get in touch with you, what's the easiest way? What do you want them to do, and what do you want them to get in contact with you and ask you?
Well, just get in touch with us at the Secure Forests website and ask us about how you can sponsor a centre, train a ranger, and how we can link you to several live projects around the globe. We've got projects in Central and South America, and one emerging in Zimbabwe where we're protecting orphan elephants in a game reserve there. So we've got plenty of emerging projects that people can really get engaged with conservation around the globe.
Fantastic. And Natasha, what do you want people to do in Cornwall? What's the urgent thing, and how do they get in touch with you for you to help them?
They can get in touch with us, our CEC Environment website, and I think that people really need to think about their day-to-day impacts of their lives and their businesses, and they can get in touch to help, just have our opinion, free if needs be, just to have some advice on how they can manage their land, how they can think about having just a basic sustainability policy for their business. Lots of Cornish businesses are small, lots of them are family businesses, so we appreciate not everyone is going to have lots and lots of sustainability money sloshing around like some big businesses do, but that's not to say they can't make a huge difference.
And because they're earthy in that sense, close to the ground, grounded, if you like, then they can understand what the opportunities they've got to make a difference, aren't they?
Yeah, and there's so many opportunities out there, be it putting some solar panels on the roof or changing the surfacing of their car park area so that it actually infiltrates into the ground, or planting some trees on their bit of green space. They don't have to be huge life-changing measures. It's just if everyone does a little bit, it all adds together.
That's a great message for small businesses. And finally, Richard, COP26 runs for another 10 or 11 days. Have you got one thing that you're hoping for an outcome?
It's difficult to say, it really is. I'm going to have to review afterwards. It's just positive change. Yeah. positive and enduring change.
That sort of incremental change that Natasha's talking about, all do something. And any final comment from you, Natasha, as a desired outcome from COP26?
I think the best thing is to get all the nations around the table and all the nations agreeing. And, you know, some are quicker to the table than others, let's say, but the important thing is to remember that we don't have much time to reverse this. We're already looking at a more than 2 degrees Celsius increase in temperature projected. That will have a huge impact on the world, both for people and the environment, and it's really important that everyone gets around the table now using these opportunities. They're so infrequent, aren't they? You know, there's so many important global issues. Everyone takes this opportunity in Glasgow to get around the table and agree to lasting change.
Well, I think in Cornwall we all are wishing them well, and for action, and that, you know, that the sort of talking does result in real action this time. So let's really hope so. It would be a great outcome for the UK if COP26 did come up with some real milestone activities. So let's all hope for the best. And locally, Natasha Collings-Costello of Cornwall Environmental Consultants, thank you very much. Richard Pyshorn of Secure Forests, thank you very much. Been very interesting, and I do really hope that Cornwall feels we can lead the way on this. I think there's a real confidence in Cornwall that what we're doing is right, and that there's a real groundswell of opinion coming around that we are leading the way on some of these things. So all power to your businesses and your efforts both, and thank you very much for your time.